Hey guys, welcome to Trashy Stupid Fun. And today is my 30th episode. And for today, I want to talk about Troll 2, which is why I did the little hand thing. Because if you know the movie, there's this random scene where this girl's in her room and dancing around and stuff, and she does that face. And that's a trademark of fans or something, I don't know. It's just something they do. And it kind of hurts my hands to do that, so I won't do that again. But anyways, I want to talk about Troll 2, and it's a bad, bad movie. And thankfully, you don't have to know anything about Troll 1 to get into Troll 2, because it's not related whatsoever, except that they're both about evil fantasy creatures, and they're both dark fantasy movies. Only one takes itself a little bit more seriously than the other. And that's for your judgment to see which one, but I mean, I don't know, they both kind of take themselves a little too seriously. Troll 2 takes itself a little too seriously to the regard that it just doesn't know how bad it is and how ridiculously over the top it is. So, anyways, this movie is about a family. It's basic. It's your basic, family. Visits a small town, and it's weird, and weird stuff happens, and it's evil and everything. It's that same kind of thing. Only it's about evil goblins. Nothing to do with trolls whatsoever. It's evil goblins, and because just gonna spoil this part. Nilbog, the town that they go to, is just goblin spelled backwards, which is mildly clever, but mostly like, okay, yeah, whatever. Anyways, so yeah, they go to this town, and they get terrorized by evil goblins, and they get some characters get killed, is what I'll say. They get killed in these very peculiar ways. They get turned into either tree people, or just green goop. But I really don't want to give too much away. I really don't. So yeah. So you have the family part where you have the mom, the dad, the oldest daughter, and the son Joshua. I don't remember everybody else's name. I don't know if they. Well, I don't know. You have the mom, dad, and the older sister. I forget her name. Just that she was the oldest daughter, and had a boyfriend who hangs out with his friends way too much. And that was like a subplot. She wants to bring her boyfriend on this trip, but he's off with his friends, and they didn't wait long enough for him to come or whatever. But yeah, the subplot with the friends is just kind of random to me, because you got this guy who has these three loser friends that just hang around him for some reason, and just I don't know. They're not really fleshed out characters, and you get a lot of that in bad horror movies. So it's something you let slide, or at least I do, I guess. But yeah, now that I got that part out of the way, I just, without giving too much of the plot away, I'm going to talk about each bit that I really like in this movie. Because there's a lot to talk about with this movie. First off, at the start of the movie, you have Joshua being told a story from his grandfather that about goblins. And he tells him a story about this guy that was running away from goblins, and he runs into this woman who turns out to be a goblin. I'm just going to get that part away, because it's just the very first part of the movie that sets up the whole plot. So yeah, and the weird things about this whole little scene is, one, the girl who this guy runs into has these ridiculous freckles on her cheeks, and they just like it makes me laugh every time, because it's just like, I don't know. It just looks really ridiculous to me. It just makes me laugh every time, because it's just, again, ridiculous. And another weird thing about it is that she's feeding him this green goop. It's like, who would eat that? It looks gross. I mean, it looked like pudding. Some sort of pudding with, with green dye in it. So it just looks really weird. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, like, who would eat that? Is all I'm saying. So there you have that, and then that guy turns into a tree, and they eat him, I guess. They don't really show that, I don't think. Oh, another fun thing about the start of the movie is that when this guy's being chased, they have this really bad, kind of 80s-ish music playing, even though this was put out in 90 or 91, I think, give or take. It was the early 90s that this movie was put out, but it just has a very 80s feel to it, And I love that about movies that were made in the 90s that were maybe actually made in the 80s, but I mean, that still have that 80s feel to it. I love that period of time in movies where movies in the 90s still felt a little like the 80s. Like Adventures in Baby, or not Adventures in Babysitting, that was in the 80s. I mean, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, which also has, Keith Coogan in it, but yeah. I won't go there, but I love movies like that. Because a lot of people confuse those for movies that were made in the 80s, and it just makes me, it's like, no. But yeah. Another thing I love about this movie, I might go in chronological order with every little thing I like about this movie. The other thing I like is the bad dialogue. Because going back to the thing, after the grandfather tells his story, the mom comes in, and I'm really not going to try to get everything. I'm trying to talk about everything in this, every little thing in this movie, but I just really got to talk about this one little thing. The mom comes in after the story's done being told, and she's like, "Who are you talking to?" Because it turns out the grandfather is dead, and he was talking to his ghost, or possibly an imaginary friend. We don't really know at this point. And I won't say. I'm not going to give too much away. You need to watch this movie. This is one of those movies you got to at least see once. It's a bad movie. You got to see it at least for the WTF of it. It's like, yeah, you got to see it. And the mom comes in and she's like, I thought we talked about this. You're not supposed to pretend you're talking to your grandfather anymore or something, and blah 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 blah. And she goes on and saying, this, his death, hurt us all. It hurt your father, it hurt your sister, and it hurt me, his daughter. It hurt especially me, his daughter. It's like, okay, I had no idea your father, that you were the daughter of your father or something. It's just bad. It's a bad dialogue all around. But it's one of the most enjoyable things about this movie. It's bad dialogue. And then, okay. I'm going to set something up that I really need to talk about too, because it's one of my, it's a classic scene, and this is the only one I'm going to reenact. Though, I may reenact the other one too, I don't know. I got to reenact this one, because this is just one of those things. Okay. And I have a puppet I'm going to reenact it with, or for the most part. He's so sad. It's just, he's seen better days, that's for sure. But anyways, when the family gets to the house, they trade keys with the family that's going to go live at their house, which they don't, because they're goblins, and, they're going to stay in town or whatever. But yeah, I'm going to give that part away, I'm sorry. But yeah, they get to the house, they go inside, and they find food laid out for them, and it's just, first of all, it's just really weird looking food. It looks like food, but it has this green stuff in each of the dishes, and it just looks unappetizing to me. It's like, who would eat that? Again, this movie makes no sense. The director didn't know what the heck he was doing, or just was too wrapped up in his own head to know what the heck that would, he didn't know it wouldn't translate to an audience. It's like, oh, well, people will figure it out. Yeah, and I think he was Italian or something. I don't know. But anyways, I'll get back to him. I have so much to talk about with the director, because I want to talk about the documentary. So I have plenty to talk about the director, so I'll get to him. Anyways, the family sits down, and then Joshua's pulled away by his dead grandfather or his ghost or whatever, and the grandfather tells him not to let them eat. So the grandfather freezes time, and the boy tries to think fast, and what he does is he gets up on the table and pisses on all the food. So then when everybody comes to after that, the father takes his son, throws him over his shoulder, and then goes upstairs with him, and takes them to each of the doors, saying, because each of their door has the name of the family, and even the parent. Oh God, it's ridiculous. I think the parents' room has their names, Mr. and Mrs. whatever, on there, and I don't know, it's just very silly. It's like, oh, like they couldn't pick their own rooms. So anyways, the father goes up and shows them each of the doors. Like, do you see this writing? You see that? It's hospitality. And then he takes them he takes the boy into his room. And he doesn't toss him on his bed, but he kind of pushes him on his bed. And it's like, that's hospitality. And you don't piss on hospitality. I won't allow it, or something like that. I love that line. I got way too inside, but yeah, I had to do that one line. I may do the next one, but I don't know. But yeah, this is a great. Because I think people have shirts that say that, and they have ones that say Nilbog, and I want one, or at least I want the one that says don't piss on hospitality. Because yeah, that's great. And I have more to say about the actor. He's not really an actor, he's a dentist, but yeah, I have so much to say about that, but I wanted to do that about the documentary. So, oh God, some more bad dialogue. Oh, and there's some great stuff at the end. I just don't want to talk about too much. Okay, I made that line at the end, maybe, but if you know the movie, you know that there's a big famous line said by the boyfriend's friend, and it's just really bad, and it's delivered really bad. Very over the top. If you know what I'm talking about, I might do it at the end. Let's see, I may have to build it up. So yeah. The other thing I really love about this movie is the Goblin Queen. I don't know where they got her. I just really hype her. I just really love this movie. Anyways, the Goblin Queen. I don't know what she was on during this movie, but she's just very, she gets her eyes wide a lot when she talks to people. And has this crazy accent, and I can't do her accent, but she has this crazy, implaceable accent. I just love it. And I don't know where she's from, but she just got crazy looks in her eyes every time the camera's on her, and when she's talking to somebody, she has the most widest eyes. It's just okay. It's just I love her, and she has some great one-liners. Just or at least one towards the end. I don't want to give that one away because that gives away the ending, and I don't want to talk about that one, or gives part of the ending away. So I won't go into that. But I love the Goblin Queen. I will talk about one thing I really got to talk about with her, because she talks about how she's descended from druids who were in Stonehenge druids or something, I don't know. And so she has a big block of Stonehenge in her palace, or her lair, her hidden lair. She's hidden out in a church or something, or a house that looks like a church. It's like there's a whole other thing. Oh, I have so many other characters to touch upon in this movie, but let me touch upon her because I like her. I love the Goblin Queen. But yeah, oh god, oh. So there's a scene towards the end where she gets her hand cut off, and so she puts her stub into the Stonehenge blocks. I guess it's 2 blocks, but anyway, she puts her hand in it and it heals it. And then for some reason she touches it again later on, or at the same scene, and makes herself beautiful. And so she goes out and finds one of the daughter's boyfriend's friends, and seduces him with corn on the cob. There's something sexual going on there, because it's kind of, anyways, and she's just holding it very seductively, and at one point it's on her hip. She has it strapped onto her for some reason. It's like, she's enticing him with the corn. It's like, we could eat this. Would you like that? And he's like, well, the guy's like, well, I too love popcorn. And it's like, well, all we have to do is heat it up, and they start making out around the corn on his bed or something, and popcorn pops all around them as they're making out on the corn. Look it up. It sounds as bizarre as I'm describing it. It's oh man. But yeah, I love the Goblin Queen because she's nuts. But I don't know. I like really over the top villains like her that just they're just crazy and just, I don't know, overly dramatic. So there's her, and then you have other creepy weirdos who the other creepy goblin people who live in this town. Like the one I really have to talk about is the guy who runs the general store. One of the guy's boyfriend's friend, one of the girl's boyfriend's friends comes in, and he's looking for something to eat. He had just gotten out of a cop car, and he was given goblin food to eat, and it's slowly killing him. And anyways, he comes to the general store, and the guy is just creepy. I don't know how to describe him. He's just got the crazy eyes going, and he's just creepy. I don't know where they found him. I think he was just somebody they picked up. I think he was actually literally somebody they picked off the street, or I don't know. He's just really creepy. He's like, because this guy's like, do you have any milk or do you have any eggs or something? And he goes, pee, eggs, gross, and he's just like, what the heck? He's just like really disgusted by anything meat products because he's a goblin and he's a vegetarian. And this dude is just really creepy. And he offers the guy, do you want some Nilbug milk? It's special, and and it's left out. I mean, again, this movie makes you question so much. Because in this general store, you have gallons of milk, or what looks like milk, out in the open, not in a freezer, not cold in any ways from what it looks like. Just cartons of what looks like milk left out. And it's like, who would want that? It's like, this guy hands them a carton. It's like, it's not cold. It's like, I would question it. It's like, none of these people question what they're given. They're just like, oh, I'll eat that, or I'll drink that. It's like, no. It's like, oh, man, this movie. Okay. And with that out of the way, there's so much. What else could I talk about this movie? There's so much bad acting, bad dialogue, bad special effects, bad everything. But I love it because it does know it's bad. I think I said right about it. I love a bad movie that just isn't aware of its badness. Because there could be a bad movie that knows it's bad and playing up the badness, but sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's forced. But this movie, it doesn't know it's bad. So yeah, I think moving on from there, I really want to talk about the best worst movie, which is a documentary all about Troll 2 and about the cult following it's gotten over the years. Because I think it's been building up over the years, which is pretty cool. Because it's just, I don't know, some people, it's one of those movies that got a word of mouth. It's like, oh, you got to see this movie. It's so bad, and and some people love it. Some people are like, eh. I'm one of those people who like it and just want to watch it more. Because, with movies like this, you find new things that you didn't notice before. So, yes. Back to Troll 2 really quick. One really bad thing that they did, the way you know it's a troll, or, a goblin, is that they have a clover leaf on their chin or something, or somewhere on their skin. But it looks, at first, when they first showed it, it just looked like a bad patch of makeup that wasn't blended very good, or wasn't done very good. Or, like a movie effect makeup thing. And it just looked like it looked like a splotch. Excuse me. It just looked like a gross little splotch on their makeup. But later on, I noticed, like, oh, okay, this is Shamrock. Because they're descended from, I don't know, something to do with Stonehenge. I don't know. Which kind of made me think of Halloween 3, and yeah, I won't get into that. And I won't start singing the Silver Shamrock song or anything. And even though I'm probably talking about it, made you think about it. But or if you're familiar with Halloween 3, which if you are, I feel bad for you. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. But some people like it, so don't. Oh God, I have friends that like it, so I better not say anything bad about Halloween 3. Cause yeah, I won't say anything. I'll just stick to Troll 2. And okay, back to I get off topic so much. I don't know if it drives you crazy or not. But anyways, Best Worst Movie Ever is a great documentary about Troll 2 and about how it follows, the first part of it follows the actor who played the father, who did the pissing on hospitality line. And he's kind of he's not really a celebrity in this town because most people didn't know about the movie before this documentary happened, I guess. Or maybe some of them did. But the actor, or the actor who played him is a dentist in Utah. And he's he's really enthusiastic about his little role in this movie because he likes that it has a cult following. And that he kind of likes that he has a fan base, I guess. And it made me smile just to see how enthusiastic he was to get the word out. That they were gonna have a screening, I think, in his hometown or some other place. Because I don't know, I just loved how enthusiastic he was. Just like, you guys know I was in a movie, and just it was fun. It was funny. I don't know. It's kind of cute the way he was. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, and then the main kid who played Joshua, it was involved in this documentary, or heavily involved with it. I think he directed, or maybe not directed, but he had a big part of it to get everybody, to get to try to touch out, reach out to his co-stars or some of his co-stars. It was very interesting to see, because at first he didn't want anything to do with the movie after it was released or something, and for years he didn't want anything to do with it. But then he heard it had a cult following, and he looked into it, I guess. And he goes to cons occasionally, from what I gathered from that, he'll go to a few cons, and yeah, and he met up. One of the co-stars he met up with was was the actress who played his mom, and the way they filmed it. I mean, I don't know if it was the editing or if she was just whacked, but she was really bizarre because at one point, oh yeah, that's the other thing I need to talk about with the Troll too, but we talk about it here. There's a scene where there's a part in the documentary where the actress playing his mom was like, they were trying to reenact this car scene, where she's like, "Oh, Joshua, why'd you play that? Why don't you sing that song I love so much?" And at the same time, I mean, she was trying to be in character, but she was really creepy. She was bizarre. I don't know. I don't know if it was the way it was edited or what. She just came off looking really bizarre. And the mom in her character in the movie, the way she played it was very bizarre. She'd get far off looks in her face. It's weird. But anyways, they tried to reenact the scene where they're in the car. They're heading to Nilbog, and the mom's like, they're fighting, and so she goes to Joshua. It's like, "Oh, honey, sing that song I like so much." And he's like, "No," and then she, it's like, "Please," and eventually he starts singing "Row, row, row your boat," and then they start singing it in a round, and it's like, okay, because that's another thing that just made me laugh. It's like, okay, apparently the mom doesn't like any songs that aren't in the public domain, so okay. I mean, that's my stupid jokes that I make every time I watch that. Even though I've only seen it twice now, but 3 times, or maybe 2.25, because I did try to watch it once before, and I don't know. Anyways, back to best worst movie ever. If you want, check it out. It's streaming on Netflix right now, and it's a really cool documentary. Because they also talk to the director, and the director, I don't know, he's one of those people I would like to meet just because he's one of those, he's just kind of full of himself when it comes to this movie. Because he was like, I made an important movie, and and lots of people like it, and blah 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 blah. And, it's kind of like Tommy Wiseau, I guess, because he's kind of an eccentric and kind of full of himself a little bit, but in a fun way, I guess. It's one of those like, oh, he doesn't realize how deluded he is, kind of thing. It's like that kind of thing. But I like that. It's a weird quality that's kind of weirdly endearing or something. I don't know. I don't know. It's just bizarre. I don't know. And yeah, and they tracked down quite a few people that were in the movie. They tracked down the grandfather, who kind of looked like Ernest Hemingway. And and he had some interesting takes on the movie, or I mean, he had some interesting things to say about the movie, and I liked that they got how many people they got to talk about it, and they also found fans to talk about the movie, for the camera. It's very interesting to see what other people who love this movie talk about it, because I mean, I don't know, it's just very. Because I mean, I've only seen it a couple times now, but I mean, I get why it has such a fan base and why it's. I mean, I've certainly seen worse movies, but I mean, I get why it's called, the best worst movie, because it's pretty awesome. And it's one of those you need to see. Because, again, it may have a 2 at the end. It doesn't have anything. You don't have to hunt down Troll to enjoy this movie. So, yeah, I think I talked about everything I could talk about this movie, and about the best worst movie ever, which, great documentary, again. Oh, but yeah, again, I got a great recommendation today that I really want to check out if I can find it. It's not on Netflix right now, but it's called Planet of Terror, I think. And it's a Roger Corman movie, and it has an interesting cast. Has Robert Englund, Ray Walston, or, from My Favorite Martian. And, yeah, it just sounds... I didn't even read the synopsis. I just saw the cast, like, okay, I've got to find this movie. And because it's Roger Corman, so yeah. And I think apparently James Cameron worked on the movie. Because, he worked in B movies before he did stuff like Terminator. I don't know if anybody, and some people knew that, because he worked on the Roger Corman, he worked on, or he directed, either directed or did the special effects for Piranha 2. The original Piranha 2, which I have yet to see. I really want to see that, and I really want to see the original Piranha. But I won't get into all that. But yeah, thank you for that suggestion. I want to look for it. I don't know when I'll get to it. Please please be patient with me. It's like, I love the suggestions. Even, I mean, I may watch Joe versus the Volcano if I could find it, but please stop asking. But I will try to find it, I guess, I am happy for suggestions. I don't want to look like a jerk and look like I don't enjoy the suggestions. I do. But I just, stick with bad B movies. I mean, stick with either really obscure or really, stick with a director or somebody or producer that makes bad movies, like Roger Corman. Because I will probably look them up. So yeah, and I'll probably find some to rewatch at some point. Because, Roger Corman made some really bad movies. And a lot of them had, characters die. Or a lot of characters die in them. Either because they were horror movies or I don't know. Mostly he made horror movies, so yeah, basically a lot of characters die and just, yeah. A lot of badness. So yeah. Again, thank you. And hopefully I'll have another 30 episodes. The way I go out, it probably wouldn't surprise me if I have 60 by the end of the year or something. I don't know. I'd like to put out a lot at once, so until next time.